welcome to the Wayne Public Library's virtual author chat. My guest today is Elizabeth Gephardt. Elizabeth has been a Montessori educator for more than 10 years. She holds a Bachelor's of Arts degree in both early childhood education and English and has obtained a special education certificate from Felician University. Elizabeth also holds a master's degree in educational technology from Ramapo College and a Montessori certification on the primary level from NEMTech in Newton, Massachusetts. Elizabeth's other interests include photography and spending time with her family. Welcome, Elizabeth. Please tell us a little more about yourself and your book.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Elizabeth, and you summed it up perfectly. So I was born and raised in Wayne. I'm a Wayne native. And just from the start, I always had a passion for writing and dreaming and being imaginative and creative. All throughout school, I always was jotting down and writing notes about different stories and, having imaginary friends and really incorporating that into my life, which then became a part of me. And all throughout my life, I then took on these dreams and these imaginations and I wrote them down and had a bunch of stories and combined them all into my first story, Evelyn's Wild Imagination.
Without summarizing in any way, what would you say your book is about?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough question. So my book is about this girl named Evelyn, same as my daughter Evelyn, and the journey she goes through what is known as a typical day at school, but she explores using her imagination and she becomes creative throughout the day. And it's really a view of acceptance and love, appreciation, and making and creating these friendships and bonds with herself, with each other, and really exploring her imagination.
Wonderful. What inspired you to create the character of Evelyn?
My daughter was my huge inspiration to create to create the character of Evelyn. And then the students that I taught were really my inspiration. All my years of student teaching, of the teachers I had growing up, it was all it all came together, and that's how I created the book and created the characters and the personas.
Okay. And is there a message that you were looking to convey when you decided to write Evelyn's story?
Yes, definitely acceptance, nurture, love, peace, knowing that school is a safe place, that students want to learn there, that they're accepted there, that this is a place of love and of hope and of giving and just being who a child really is and just allowing them to be a child.
And you mentioned that Evelyn is based on your daughter.
Yes.
Are there any other characters in the book that are based on other family, friends, past students, any of them?
Yes, that's why I had to change the names of the students and the characters in the book. A lot of them are based off my colleagues and of students in the past that really had inspired me and touched me in a way where I was able to observe them and see how they worked with, say, the material or how they worked in the classroom, and how I was able as a teacher to allow them to create more extensions and really to elaborate on their thoughts and on their emotions.
And are you working on any other new books, like another Evelyn book or another book entirely different from the Evelyn?
So happy you asked. So I am currently working on 2 different books. One, and I don't want to give too much away, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I do want to include my dog Archie. Archie's a big part of my life. He was technically my first baby, then came Evelyn, but I do want to incorporate him and the adventures that they go on, what I experience as a stay-at-home mom and what I experience them learning together and how they interact. So I'm compiling all that information to form potentially 2 new books. So stay tuned.
Okay. So a little bit about your background. You mentioned your time as a Montessori teacher and your daughter, now your dog, also as inspiration
Yes.
stories. How long have you been writing? And how long have you been writing?
So I've been writing ever since I want to say I was a child. I've always had journals. I've always had those composition notebooks. That might be dating me back, but I've always was writing or drawing on them, doodling on folders in, high school or college. And then I took everything that I was writing and I put it all together. And I just realized that I enjoyed writing stories. I don't know if they went anywhere or where they were going to go, but my life experiences helped me draw out stories to which I wanted to share with others. And Evelyn's Wild Imagination happened to be the first one because it's so close to my heart. I love being a teacher. I love my child and my family and my background. That was the first one that I said, let's run with this one first and see how it turns out. And the support has been incredible.
That's great to hear. It's always wonderful, and there's a lot of support for
Oh, yes.
books. Um, can you share with us what the most difficult part of writing is for you?
The most difficult part of writing is probably getting all the information together because in general, like even watching a child, their thoughts seem to be short spanned. So trying to write and gather thoughts and work off those thoughts that they're doing and putting it all together in one book seemed to be the hardest part for me.
Okay. How long on average does it take you to write a book?
Well, this book took me ever since college. I started this book in college, and the neat part about it is that I actually have binders of all the different transformations it had taken. So all the different images that I started drawing, the ones that I then sent to the illustrator. So this book took about a good, I want to say a good amount of time, enough time, and then the publication process, and then the finalization. So this book has been in the works for maybe a decade, potentially a decade.
Wow, that is a long journey. How about the ones you're working on? Do you foresee like a shorter time frame? Shorter now that you understand a little bit of the background?
Yes, exactly. Now that I understand the process, I think the time frame for the next two coming up are going to be a lot shorter just because I know what to expect now.
Okay. Um, and what in your life do you consider like a major influence to your writing? I think you mentioned your daughter and Montessori.
Yes, my daughter, my background, and especially my family. So I don't know how many people actually know this, but the back of the book includes everything that is very important to me. So my husband's family's in Buffalo, so I think I put Niagara Falls, Hershey Park I always did growing up. So here and there's little secrets on who I am as a person and what helped to develop this book. But my family is a true support, my husband, my daughter, my dog. I'm all in all very grateful.
Okay. And do you hear from your readers? And
I
like,
do.
what things do they say?
From what I understand, they love my book, and it's really, really adorable to get messages or to get, an email or a photo saying like, look, this book brought inspiration to my child, and it just really warms my heart. So keep them coming. Honestly, I love any kind of feedback.
Okay. Um, and with your publishing, what was your publishing journey with this book?
That actually took quite some time. I looked into a few different publishing companies, and one of my colleagues that I know actually also published a few books. So her and I got into talking, and she recommended the Mascot Publishing Company. So I reached out to them, and we had set up a few different interviews. Nothing was rushed, which was really, really nice because I didn't feel like I had to rush to get my book out. But they really also gave me some positive feedback, also some criticism, which was actually nice to hear because it helped me to direct my book. But then we went through each step of the way, and going through these steps helped me to realize what it's like to be an actual published author. It's not just writing down your ideas, but it's actually implementing and making them become something real and seeing them, on Amazon or in Barnes and Noble and thinking that's what I did and this is how I got there. So if it wasn't for the publishing company, I'm not quite sure which direction my book would have gone in at this point.
Okay. And your friend is the one who kind of guided you to that.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. And you mentioned like doing drawing, like in your notebook,
Yes.
the drawings for many, many years, but then you also had an illustrator. So who did the illustrations for your book? How much of it's on your original sketches?
A lot of it. So my original sketches were just that. They were sketches. I by no means am an artist. That is not my forte. I love the writing portions. I love the creating, but drawing, no thank you. So I took the images I had and I sent them to, her name is Beth Pierce, and she went back and forth with me on what I was looking for. And when I was creating the characters, I had said to her, I wanted a very bubbly and happy character. I wanted a character that looked like they were enjoying themselves at school, even with this creativity and this imagination, that they felt accepted and they felt whole. So she was able to take the stick figures, essentially I was drawing, and make them into a much more wholesome characters, and using even the colors we talked about too, because I wanted the colors to be bright and airy and happy, and just to envision that kind of imaginative creativity.
Okay. As we've already mentioned, your background in education helped you
Yes.
develop the story. Did it help in any other way that you can think of, like, or is it just, the background with students and knowing them and seeing them in the
Well,
classroom?
my background, including college years, that's where initially started. When I majored in English, I learned a lot from the different, I say like Shakespeare and Dante's Inferno. That's what I learned and grew up with. That's what I had learned in college. So as I took that and I was talking to my professor about that, she then gave me the idea to kind of apply everything also on paper. So then I went through different child authors like Dr. Seuss and Eric Carle, and I'm like, how can I mingle that so that I'm, incorporating all these visions into my story? So really, college was really like that push up for me to say, yeah, you know what, you can do this. The creativity is there, and it helped me to kind of channel my inner thoughts so that they look how I want them to look on paper. And then as it progressed from there, then I started getting the information from outside sources, like my student teaching, and then applying what I learned as a Montessori teacher into my book.
Okay. And what was one of the most surprising things you learned in creating your books?
That I can actually create a book. That I'm actually capable of creating a book. But yeah, aside from that, just the outpour of love and support. And what surprised me was how much positive feedback I got. So I was like, okay, this is great. This is supportive. This is endearing. How else can I be there for my community? How else can I reach out to them and reach out to fellow teachers? My co-teacher actually does the voiceover for the book. So she also helped me and instilled confidence in me that I didn't even realize I had for myself. So I'm very grateful.
Wow. So when you say the voiceover, is that for like an audio version of it, or?
Yes, there's an audio version on Amazon, and my colleague Heather does the audio version. She's fantastic. I'm very grateful.
That's wonderful. So what advice would you give a new writer that's just starting out?
Keep going, keep trying. And even though it might seem like you're only writing a little bit, the little pieces turn into a whole. That's how I came up with my story, was little pieces here and there. And honestly, feel free to reach out to other writers. I can't even tell you how many people have come up to me and say, well, I actually wrote my own children's book. What's the process like? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that that's who you were, or you had that in you. So it's really nice and endearing to hear that these people can now confide and feel like they have a voice in such a passion.
Okay. And do you belong to any writers groups, or do you work with critique partners to go over your ideas and your work and how it's flowing? Any of that?
Yes, I work with all online. I work with critique writers. My publishing company also has a lot of writers as well, and we hired a marketing company who also kind of helps me and guides me and aligns with me on a lot of basis.
Okay. And then I always have a fun question, and this is what do you always want to talk about in interviews but never get to?
Just where the passion came from. So where my passion for teaching came from. I'm in a family with a lot of diverse teachers, and my love for learning, my love for creativity and passion, and it's just an innate passion I had, and also my love for obviously my daughter. I also published a poem when I was a kid, and that also, I published a poem as a kid, and that also started. My mom and dad helped me to continue to really support me and find my love for learning and writing children's book.
Okay. Do you see yourself writing anything that's not for children, that maybe is
Yes.
YA or middle or even adult?
I'm currently in the midst of writing another children's book, but also a novel. So I'm just in the midst of starting that, and that's been a very fun and interesting project, but I'm green to go on it. So we'll see how it happens.
Okay. I'm gonna ask contemporary, historical, science fiction, horror, or like what cat mystery?
Comedy, romance,
Okay.
yeah, a little bit of everything.
Okay, that's wonderful, and good luck.
Just in the start.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
I don't know, is there more, like, was there anything else that you'd like to share about your writing, about your book that we haven't covered here today?
No, I'm very grateful for everyone. This is my Evelyn doll that
So
everyone has.
cute.
Yeah, my
Did you make that or was it made for you?
I had my husband's cousin actually.
Oh,
And
that's
then
so
here's
cute.
my book.
Yep. Which we have a copy here at the library. It's been
Yes.
next to your flyer these last few weeks, advertising this chat and also the book.
And
So,
you can also find my book in libraries and stores. There's a store called Zap Comics in Wayne. My book can be found there and all over online, but I'm very grateful.
well, Elizabeth, this has been wonderful. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much
much.
for joining us today. And again, hopefully we'll have access to your next book and we can add it to the library collection.
Yes, and be sure to check us out on social media. Thank you.